Oh, okay. Welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. I don't see anybody here for invocation today, so we'll just, if you want to join me in the pledge, we'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a few things going on today with some public hearings and whatnot, but we'll move through. I would entertain a motion on the minutes of last week.
Mr. Chair, move to approve the minutes of August 4th through the 6th.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Any corrections, comments? Okay, seeing none, call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Run down through consent agenda. Let's see, agreements, contracts, bid awards. The first two involve our jail and the juvenile center. It's a nutrition program. It's a agreement with Trinity Service Group to provide food management for adult male population through August 2026, August 24, 2026. The price this year is on a sliding scale. What that means is it's based on the number of inmates that are incarcerated at the time. And it's broken down. It changes like, I think what Ren told me yesterday, it changes every 10. So last year we paid $1.96, 1.962, I think to be exact. Based on our current population, that will go to 2.164. But if the population rises, it'll actually go down. If it decreases, it'll go up a little bit, not in significant amounts, but just so you know, that's a sliding scale. The juvenile is not a sliding scale. It's a set deal. And it's the same thing with Trinity Service Group, and it's through August 24th, 2026. It'll go from $2 per meal to 2.07. The juvenile is usually a little bit more expensive than adult, because in a juvenile facility, we have to meet the school. It goes by the school nutrition standards. So that's what has to be met. Amendment number 1, Washington State Department of Ecology add 4 additional days for the Washington Conservation Corps. This is through our noxious weed board. They have they have a little extra funds, and they have the use of some of these kids for another week. So they're going to put them to use, and specifically doing some work up at Clark Creek. So that amount will go from 6160 to 26,719. But as I mentioned, it's within their budget, and it's a decision the board made to do. Grant agreement with the Department of Ecology for Cowlitz Corrections to participate in litter and illegal dump cleanup and prevention project for public lands. This is one you can use. We basically use people out of custody, but that still have some service to do. We don't use those in custody that are considered dangerous or you would want back on the streets. It's a 2-year grant, and when we do these things that we get reimbursed from the state, total amount of the grant is $91,700. It's a renewal of something we've done in the past. Correspondence, letters, notices, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, notice dated 7/18/25 regarding an incident report related to project safety. This is on sinkholes at SWIFT number 2. Same organization, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, notice dated 7/30/25 regarding authorization of construction. This is on Spillway Gate structural retrofit project at Yale. Execute agreements, contracts, execute right of way easement, power underground to the Public Utility District for an easement for underground power to be within ingress and egress. Executed and recorded lease of public water line easement on parcels 504-11600 and 504-2-11602. Signed by the right-of-way agent established, it was a resolution 25039. What happened there is Susan can raise her hand if I'm wrong, but we were named as the deal, but it actually should have been the city of Woodland. So it's changing it to the city of Woodland. That's the change there. And a signed letter dated 8/6/25 regarding executing the closing documents on the purchase of the River Suites property. That's where Office of Public Defense is currently in. We've had the opportunity to purchase over there instead of lease, so we've made that commitment and that will close. Okay, that's consent agenda. Any questions, further comments, anything on that? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve consent agenda. One last time. Okay, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion items, facilities.
Good morning, Commissioner Sean Roy. Today before you, we have a contract award and execution for Lakeside Industries for the administration building asphalt replacement. That's the parking lots out here. The total amount is $205,957.53. This project, we did receive 3 bids on this. The lowest bidder was Lakeside Industries. The next closest bidder was Granite at about a $513 difference. This project includes the parking lot itself and parts of Third Avenue. Those would be reimbursed to us by the city of Kelso, and that's about $62,000 and change from the city of Kelso on that.
So that 62,000 is part of this 205,
That's correct,
and then they'll reimburse us for what we spent to do that. Okay.
100%.
And it also includes the WSU parking lot too,
It
the
does.
small one there. Yeah.
So we have some maps up here just for more information on the layout of that area.
Any questions, comments on that? Ron?
Good morning, Commissioners. In your execution specifications, timing, how have you asked the contractor to accommodate parking, or are they doing weekends, or how are they doing that?
Yeah, we've specified for weekend or night work on this area. And so we expect they'll do it over a weekend. This should be able to be knocked out in one weekend for paving and then maybe a second weekend for striping and curb stops and things of that nature.
Okay, very good, thank you.
And Sean, I know you said we added handicap spots yesterday, but I looked at the map. We didn't take away any regular parking spot for that, it looks like. Or am I mistaken?
So we have specified additional handicap spots along the frontage next to the ramp. Those are normal parking spots. We are using them as temporary handicap currently, but we are adding in that area.
So that's why I was confused. Okay. Got it.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Yeah, I'd entertain a motion.
I move approval of item number 7, the contract award and execution with Lakeside Industries.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the contract with Lakeside. Any further discussion? Just checking for hands. See none. We'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Health and Human Services.
Hey, good morning. Gina James, Health and Human Services. We have 2 items on the agenda this morning. The first item is a contract amendment to our contract with the Washington State Department of Health. They are adding funding for the new fiscal year for our work with Group B water systems. So the funding amount is $20,259, just supports our work with Group B systems, water testing, applications, those types of things.
Yeah, and I know you've explained this before. Do you mind explaining in Group B?
Yes, so Group B system is 3 to 14 connections. It's usually like a small group of neighbors that may share a well, that type of thing. Yeah, there's about 100 of them.
Within our county?
Mhm.
Any questions on this? Okay, I entertain a motion.
Move approval of item number 8, contract amendment 25-002, subsection 2.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the contract amendment from 25-002 subsection 2. Last chance, questions? Okay, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, the second item we have on the agenda is a contract with Washington State Department of Ecology. Again, this isn't a new contract to us, it's for the new fiscal period. It is a 2-year contract, providing funding up to $187,895. This is to support our work with solid waste complaints and fielding those and responding to those types of complaints in the community.
What, how do we do, when a solid waste, what are we looking at?
Talking about like a buildup of garbage, it could be Hulk vehicles, that type of thing that would cause like vector issues, or if items might be leaking fluids and things like that.
Things like that?
Yeah. Most of the time garbage.
Yeah. I only mention because we have issues where there's like pallets stacked, but that's not considered solid waste.
Solid waste,
It
yeah.
comes if there's if you could leak out of a car, you could have garbage or.
Right, if it's
things like that.
causing a public health
Right.
risk or issue, that type of thing. We also respond to liquid waste complaints as well. But this grant is for solid waste complaints. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ron.
Does this address illegal dumping in any form, or is that separate? Complaints from citizens on illegal dumping?
Yeah, it could. It depends. Illegal dumping is a really hard one, because when we get involved, we're looking at the property owner. Where's the property owner, and are you being responsible for your property? So oftentimes when there's illegal dumping, it's really hard to know who's doing the dumping. And then if we get involved, then we're talking to the property owner about the dumping and what that looks like on their property. And we would support them however we could, but the illegal dumping piece is a really tricky one.
Correct. That is the fly in the ointment. Does Department of Ecology participate, or is that the law enforcement agencies that look for the provider of the illegal dumping?
Yeah, Department of Ecology doesn't usually get involved in that type of thing. Law enforcement might get involved, but again, it's just a really tricky one to pinpoint, who's done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you from personal experience, Ron, in Lewis County, my brother and I have a little piece of property and people started dumping on there. It was the sheriff that called and said, hey, people are starting to dump on there. So we went up and cleaned it up and kind of blocked it off, but that's who dealt with us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tricky one.
How much time do you spend investigating stuff like this?
We get quite a few complaints in, and then we work with the property owners on what it looks like to get things cleaned up and be in compliance so there's no public health risk. How much time we spend on it, it's hard to pinpoint because we have a couple different staff that will respond. and look, but
Do we have 1 or 5 full-time employees that are busy doing this?
no, but we have, our environmental health unit has 4 field staff and they all might handle some of the complaints. I could try to get a better idea of if that equates to, 3/4 of a FTE or what that looks like.
Just give me an idea. How many complaints do you get a month?
Oh, gosh. Let me look because we have the number of complaints. Let me look and I can get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Gina, is this, if you could also look to see if this is something that is increasing as far as, how many times is this happening and how many times we're having to deal with it and compared to like maybe the last 5 to 10 years?
Oh, sure.
Because I know I fielded quite a few calls with regards to this kind of thing
Yeah.
throughout my district. So I'm just wondering if it's something that is increasing.
Certainly feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Feels like it's increasing, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I could take a look at that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? I see no hands. I'd entertain a motion for that.
Move approval of contract 25-024 with Washington State Department of Ecology.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the contract, the renewal of the contract 25-024 with Washington State Department of Ecology. Last call. Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
We have a public hearing coming up at 9:30, so we have a couple of minutes before that. Commissioner Rader, did you want to tackle this
Yeah.
while we have a couple
Yeah,
minutes
real
here?
quick. I had a conversation with Trinidad yesterday and the city of Longview is looking to apply for a grant for their first responders and fire teams and to help with the, I think he calls it SUD, Rapid Response Team. He wanted to know if we would write a letter of support for this grant in Longview getting it. Trinidad feels that it's a really good service and he supports the service. And I talked to him at length about it and I expressed my concern for it is that we write a letter of support for this, then the funding stops and then we have to pick that up and carry it on. So one of the things that I asked him to put in the letter is that we would support the program, but we are not responsible for it financially, should the funding stop later on so that we don't have to subsidize that. And he put that there. You can see it there at the bottom. So it is a good program. I think that it's going to bring value to the community and something that I think is needed given the circumstances, but it's just not something that I feel that we need to continue to finance if the money runs out.
So we're just trying to put some weight behind Longview's request here. Yeah. I don't have any problem.
I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah. Sorry.
We have a very important workshop coming up at 10:30 on this Forest Practices Act.
Yeah.
I just go on record. I'm extremely disappointed that we just had a meeting with the Department of Ecology and they did not break this subject or brief us on what was coming or give us an alert. That's a dereliction of duty on an important thing like that. And our ecology people sitting right here and not saying a thing.
I don't know where their hands delve into it and where they don't. I know it actually the Forest Practice Board runs through the DNR. And, but a lot of agencies sit on there. It would be hard for me to believe the ecology doesn't have a seat on that board. There's 13 members on that board, and I believe they do, Ron. And with that, if they're not communicating out, yeah, I agree. This is a big deal, and we'll talk about it later. We actually have a letter that we're gonna drafted to, because you have to have comments in by 5 PM tonight. It's a big deal to Cowlitz County. It's a, you're talking a lot of taking of private property is what you're talking. And it's not right. But like you say, we have a workshop coming up on that, and we'll do more on that. Any other public comments? Yes. Come on up. You can sit right there, sure.
Okay.
Sure, sure.
This is my first time going, so I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing here. I don't even know if I'm in the right group of people to ask this question.
Okay.
I saw on Facebook where there are like about a half a dozen counties that have specified and said that they are not a sanctuary county. And I was wondering if I'm in the right place to recommend that you folks also join with those other counties in saying Cowlitz County, it does not want to be sanctuary county. Am I even in the right place?
You are, and we had a discussion on that, because some have filed resolutions saying that. We have not drafted up a resolution because the resolution from the other counties all specify they'll follow existing law, and we at this point have not seen that it's a burden to us. And we just, the updated list that just came out, I don't have it in front of me, I have it in my office, as no county in the state of Washington is listed on that list, so there's no threat to federal funds being withheld from Cowlitz County. As far as I can tell, when we talk with the sheriff, they tell us they cooperate. They have not had any requests from ICE, but they would cooperate with them if they were in. So I think we would abide by every law out there that's in existence. And the threat the other counties were seeing is they were worried that the feds were going to withhold federal funds from their county. Well, all the counties have been dropped from that list now. They've refined how they identify that. I think the state of Washington's still on it, but the state of Washington will probably have to do some, whatever they do with the feds. And there could be things that happen in the state of Washington that do turn around and have some effect on counties. I won't tell you that it won't, but we can't interject and tell the state of Washington what to do, unfortunately.
Okay.
We are, I can tell you, all three of us are concerned about it, and we do watch it, because we know we take federal funds, we take a lot of federal funds when we do road projects, bridges, culverts, those type of things, and it's important to us, so we trying to keep on top of it.
Oh, by the way, I'm Larita Richards and I do live in Longview.
Okay,
So, okay, thank you. I just thought I'd go on record. I am against being a sanctuary state and county.
thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Anything you guys want to add? Did I miss anything, or
No, that was
so
good.
far? Okay. Anything else? Did you guys get a chance to read this briefly?
I did.
It was
Good with it.
put together, you're all good with it. It was
Yep.
put together pretty quickly, but this is,
Yeah,
that,
write another page and a half and.
yeah, I know it, right? It could be a 3-page document. What do we got? We're real close, aren't we? Well, I haven't even had a chance to really. You know, here's what I might do on this. We got a request from the city of Castle Rock wanting to, it's wanting $225,000. If you're in Castle Rock, you know, the walking path they've done along the dike, they want to extend that. And it's a $670,000 project and they're looking for they're 70,800. See, I hadn't read through this thing very much. I think I would just turn it over to you and see if there's, I know we have different things, but I think we would all need some opinion if there's even funds available to entertain this thing.
Okay, is it for, it's for a park? or
It's
walk-
for their walking
path?
path. They want to extend that path. It's a nice path. I'm not saying it's not nice. See a lot of people use it. I just don't know where funds would come from, if we have it, if it needs to be competitive or whatnot. So I've gone last week and I saw it on my desk this week and I just haven't gotten around to passing it on and see if there's anything out there before we even kind
Okay.
of get into it.
So, this is Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director. I'll take it and do some research and bring it back.
Yeah, okay, thanks. I think we're close, so we can head into Finance Department, budget amendment
Yes.
hearing.
Okay, so Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director, and I'm here today to request an amendment to our 2025 Cowlitz County budget, as well as the approval to dissolve a fund that we no longer find necessary. It's called Cumulative Reserve. It's Fund 19701, and it would be dissolved, and the funds are all from, that have been going in this account were from lodging tax, and they will be transferred to the Tourist Facility Development and Marketing Special Fund once it's dissolved. And just in summary, this is our budget amendment. We typically do quarterly budget amendments for things that were unexpected on expenses as well as revenues. And this is the quarter that we look pretty intently at all of our revenue sources and look to shore those up to better estimates. And so for our general fund, we have reviewed expenditures, and one of the major ones for the expenditure on the general fund is to provide funding for the purchase of the River Suites facility. And that's a $905,000 budget amendment increase on expense side. And then we have some other non-departmental expenditures increases as well as a decrease for a total decrease of $378,000. So those are the major items in our general fund. But on the revenue side, we've increased the revenue estimates that we have for $1,513,470. So that leaves us adding funds to our general fund balance in the amount of $986,120. Other fund.
That's nice.
Yes, it's a very nice thing to.
I had a whisper in my ear that looks like tax receipts came in strong too. I mean,
Yes.
this is off of your public hearing, but I just,
Yeah, on our personal property tax, we have some items that we've recorded now that are actually for prior periods, and that was about $1.2 million for the tax as well as the interest. So those are actuals. They're already recorded on the books. And so that's why we're amending the budget to make our estimates equal closer to the actuals. For other funds, in our roads fund, we've previously just talked about this. We have a reduction in our federal highway funding. This is due, it's an amount of a reduction of $3.8 million. But this is basically due to those projects being moved to another period, and they won't occur in this year. And so we also have some road striping equipment that we had anticipated, but we're not at the point where we're going to utilize those funds. So we have a reduction on our machinery and equipment, supplies, as well as construction in the road fund that total $3.8 million.
And just to be clear, this isn't the feds taking anything
No,
from us.
this
We
is-
just, we
This is adjusting the
we
time
got
period.
over optimistic on what we could do, I think was maybe Susan's words. And so we're rescheduling some of
Yeah,
that.
we're rescheduling those projects for a later date. So that's one of the major items on special funds. Other than that, some of the others are just adjusting for some expenditures. The Rural Public Facilities Fund, we increased the amounts that we're going to award this year because we had a couple of projects that come in. We had Scott Hill Sports Complex, and we also had a feasibility study award that we're going to do for dredge material. And so those awards, we wanted to make sure that we had budget capacity, and that was about $336,000 there. Just some other ones that we have, veterans relief expense was reducing professional services. But they will, because they're no longer going to do special projects, and that they increased another line item, their other line item, a corresponding amount, basically. And then the only other major item that we had is our opioid revenue fund. We are receiving more than we originally budgeted in revenue on that fund for some additional settlements. To the tune of about $302,000, we adjusted the revenue up, but we have adjusted the ending fund balance. We didn't allocate that for any known expenses yet. And then in our budget stabilization fund, which is basically an emergency contingency fund, we did not budget investment earnings, and we overlooked that. So we want to budget $150,000 because we've already received, and we anticipate receiving that amount this year. And then another major item that we adjusted, we are undertaking some electrical and HVAC project at Hall of Justice. And we've determined that $2 million of our law and justice funding would qualify to help us offset those expenses. And so we're transferring $2 million out of law and justice fund balance and moving it to our CIP, our infrastructure account, capital account for $2 million. And then thereby increasing the Hall of Justice project by that equivalent amount. And then we also increased the Hall of Justice project by another $1.5 million. So in total for this year, we're anticipating to spend about $6.5 million. And then in 2026, we'll spend approximately $4.5 million when we present the 26 budget. And then our IT department is anticipating, these were items that weren't anticipated at the beginning of the year, some additional computer software hardware replacements out of the reserve account, thereby reducing the fund balance $708,000. And the remainder of the budget amendments, the majority of them are related to the PFD, and they had a resolution to amend their budget. And so we're just making the corresponding amounts on the official books in our PeopleSoft system. And that's a summary of the budget amendments that we're presenting today.
Any
Kathy, could you please go back to the dredge spoil amount?
Yes.
Did you say that we have not paid that yet? It's gonna be
We
paid-
have not paid that. We will pay that this month, and I'm going to bring the contract to you. It'll actually come as a consent agenda item next week.
So we'll be able to discuss that.
Yes, you'll be able to discuss that. It hasn't been executed fully yet.
Okay, good.
Anything?
When we dissolve a fund and it has, excuse me, if a fund has specific uses and we dissolve that fund and move them to a different account, what changes that we lose opportunities by moving or dissolving an account that had dedicated fund?
And actually, so this was something that had been put in place many years ago. The sales tax proceeds from the lodging tax were split. 50% they were going to this cumulative fund and 50% were going to the tourism fund. They were specifically earmarked to help offset expenses for a facility that we had, the Hofstede facility, and we sold that facility. So setting aside funds for that facility's repair and maintenance and upkeep was no longer necessary. And so now they are restricted funds. They have to be spent on tourism facilities or activities. And so now what we're doing is we're putting them all in the tourism fund so that they're all succinctly in one place.
Okay,
So the tourism fund will receive all of the remainder of the cumulative reserve fund transfer, all the interest earned on it, as well as the original sales tax proceeds.
okay.
And it also makes their life easier to only have one fund to deal with and to administer.
Thank you.
Okay, see no else here. I'll open public hearing for any public comment that people want to make on this, if there is any, or it seems pretty clear. I think there's actually some positives that we're seeing this time around, so I appreciate that. Okay, let me just check online real quick. Nothing. Okay, I'll close the public hearing and then I would entertain a motion on this.
I move approval of the budget amendment and for dissolution of funds.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the budget amendment and dissolution of funds. Excuse me. We've already asked for public comments, so we'll just go to the vote. All's in favor? Aye. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
We have just a couple minutes and then we're going to with Public Works, change in traffic code, but we have just a couple. Do you have any public comments you want to do before we start that one up? Ron, I saw you coming up.
Yes, thank you. Maybe take a moment to comment on the the newspaper has been giving you some notoriety here for the $11 million of funds, et cetera. If you can give us a
Yeah.
quick briefing on that.
I can, and those haven't, and I received some documentation yesterday from commissioner in a different county because there was some question on if we could turn some of those funds back. And I don't have it right in front of me, but here's what I can tell you. Our funds have gone, and Gina can correct me, but I think I'm in the ballpark of about 4.5 million when I first came on, then I went to 8 and now it's at 11. When you break it down, and our question is, do we need to take all that? And if what we are doing now is solving the problem, it should actually be going down. It looks like it's, you're paying to have the problem grow. And I'll get those out and I'll share these with my colleagues today. I just been got back, and like I said, I just got it yesterday afternoon. But if you break down point in time numbers, the two counties that are at top of the list on dollars per point in time is Lewis County and Calais County. The counties at the bottom of the list are like King. So in other words, these funds are spent in the homeless population, and we're giving more dollars based on point in time counts in Lewis and in Calais than King and Pierce are. Now, a cynic would say maybe they're trying to transfer the problem from their big liberal cities down to the conservative cities that have not always been their friends. A trustworthy person would say, no, they're just giving you extra money so you don't get there. The question on if we don't take those, will they just go to another entity to disperse? Lewis County got a letter from the Department of Commerce that said, if you don't want to take all those, we'll work with you and take some of that money back, and they will disperse it to other counties that maybe have a need. It doesn't appear from the Department of Commerce that they'll just send it over to another department and send it out. So it's my belief, and like I said, I haven't had a chance to share this with my colleagues, so they're catching this cold, and I apologize for that. That we would have the ability to say, hey, we don't want the whole thing. It looks like you're just trying to grow the homeless situation in our county. If you know me, you know I'm probably more on the cynic side than the trustworthy side. So that's a little update I have, and I just got this basically yesterday afternoon.
Okay, thank you. So in our community and in our city of Longview, Camp Hope, et cetera, we can anticipate that they are looking for you to provide funds through this to them to sponsor that, because they've already said as a city, they can't afford Camp Hope.
Yeah. I know they're looking that way. They indicated that the state has earmarked funds for them, but we can't find, to my knowledge, and I know Gina has looked, that there's been any funds that are earmarked specifically for Longview.
Right. And so I would look in your position, you're between a rock and a hard spot, saying funds are there, but what's the use of those funds? And one would be if City of Longview can put their own name on the line if they want it in some other way. The other, it's a great opportunity to peer into the results of Camp Hope. It's been there long enough now. They talk about the movement of people from Camp Hope into permanent housing, but permanent housing is like Section 8 housing and other things. So I would certainly request that you would, if that request, you get into it and you're doing the work and City of Longview comes, we, the citizens, want to know the real results of Camp Hope and not just the political coverage of it.
Okay.
Thank
We
you.
need to get into the public. This is a longer conversation than 10 minutes, but you asked for an update, and so I just give you what I just found out.
Right.
And-
I expect there'll be meetings or on the agenda or whatever and following
Right.
it, but you've had public quite a bit in the paper here lately, of course.
I understand you even made the Centralia paper, so
Right. Okay, thank you.
for a person that doesn't really care to be in the paper. Okay, let's change subjects here. 9:45 workshop, Public Works. We're looking at amending chapter 11.04, which is our traffic code, establishing fines for parking violations. So Susan?
Good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. We have in front of you today an amendment to chapter 11.04, adding section 1104-500 and amending the establishment of placing signs. The original traffic code was adopted and did not include establishment of who erects the signs. This will amend the chapter to include that Public Works will be responsible for locating and erecting signs. In addition, since it was adopted, the state court system amended the infraction rules and changed it such that local jurisdictions need to set their penalties. So this code will amend, adding erection of the signs and penalties in the amount of $50 for a first violation, $100 for a second violation, $200 for a third violation, and subsequent violations. This code has been worked through with Public Works, the prosecuting attorney's office, and the sheriff's department. Doug, do you have anything else?
Yeah. So I am back here for the third time doing my tenure at Cowlitz on parking violations. The first being to amend the ordinance to restrict someone using a public right-of-way because an individual in a neighborhood decided to park all of his vehicles he was working on up and down both sides of the roadway, blocking any use by the abutting residents. So we had to go back and adopt an ordinance change and put up signage to prevent that from happening. My second event was use of county parking lots for long-term stays, including specifically at the admin building, which basically created an impossibility for folks attending public hearings, trying to pay their taxes, trying to vote, to find parking anywhere near and about the admin building, and particularly for those folks that want to vote in person and probably maybe more like me, not wanting to walk 3 or 4 blocks. And yet it took having to go back and pass an ordinance amending the facilities portion of the code to address being able to put up signs that tell someone not to do what they shouldn't be doing. So here we are back again, third stint. For areas that are not covered either by parking lots or by treatment of full public rights of way. And so the idea is to pass an ordinance, amend the code, pay the code publisher to amend our code, pay Public Works folks to produce the signs, send Public Works crews out to put up a sign, and then utilize enforcement to force people to do what they should already not be doing, which is commercial truckers filling up parking rides that were designed for people who want to share rides and not finding any place to park, instead being used as a rest stop. For folks that decide they're going to claim portions of the county right-of-way as their own, because it's immediately off the right-of-way and the sheriff's office isn't going to enforce it because they really can't. It's not creating an imminent health risk to the public health and safety. So we're going to adopt yet a third ordinance, which I would label quit being a jerk. And that's basically what this is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it just vehicles? Say, you talked about somebody parking trucks they were working on and that's where the right of way come in. But if they're just stacking stuff of a personal nature, like in one of our right of ways, would it affect that too, or is that a different animal?
We could address that through some type of abatements, more people just parking RVs, parking cars.
Okay,
And the sheriff's office not being able to do anything because it's too far from the travel portion of the right of way for them to feel like they can call in a tow truck.
gotcha.
So now we're gonna have to put up a sign, something similar to what you see in the private parking lot saying, this isn't your property, go away.
Okay. Any questions? See none, I'll open for public comment. It's a public hearing if there is any. Okay, see none, we'll close the public hearing and I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the proposed ordinance amendment 11.04 traffic code establishing fines. Call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. If you would indulge me for a moment, I'd like to follow up from a question from Ron from last week
Sure.
that I gave some information on. So last week you asked me about the temporary pavement markers. So I brought one with me today. This is what I was referring to as a stick and stomp that we put down prior to oiling. They stick these down. There's a plastic cover on these. So when they spray the oil, the oil will stick to that plastic cover. And then a week later, when they come and sweep, the plastic cover is pulled off by the sweeper and the reflective piece should remain and be clear of oil.
Thank you for that. And that's exactly what I observed later in the week on those. So thank you.
You're welcome.
They were not visible, they were sprayed, and I said, what the heck good are they doing? And then I said, well, I thought they had covering or black all over them, and then I saw the yellow. Thank you.
Yes, this is how they work. So I wanted to follow up on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. We have a couple minutes before 10, if anybody has anything. Mike, are you just standing or you have something?
I got plenty, but only a little.
Okay. Oh, okay. You'll give it to us in short bursts?
Since Susan asked for some indulgence, I'd like to ask for some indulgence also. When you ask for the hearing, if there's any comments, I would ask in the future, you have your eyes on the crowd, not your paperwork before you hit the gavel. Please,
Okay.
because I had a question about your last public hearing thing. I don't know if it was a public hearing or workshop. I heard you call it a workshop and it was presented like a workshop, but there's not very much detail was presented there. It seemed to me like you just passed a motion to make a pretty bare bone out there that gets to be filled in later on,
This one just
that you just
now?
got done with.
Okay.
It seemed pretty lacking on details and great abstract ideas, but there wasn't a lot of flesh on the bone there to see what's going to happen. That's just a comment. And that's all I have for now. I'll
Okay.
wait another half hour. Thank you.
You got a couple minutes. If anybody has anything before 10?
So since we moved to approve that, is it gonna be called the Don't Be a Jerk code? The way it was presented?
The don't be a jerk ordinance.
At least put it in parentheses.
Got about 5 minutes, right?
We do have 5 minutes.
Can we take a 5-minute recess?
I actually like to ask Mike a quick question about his comments.
Sure.
What, Mike, if you could please, what more would you have liked to have seen so that I can learn and understand what the expectation for those meetings are?
I mean, can't park here. Well, what does that mean if you're off the right of way? I mean, how wide is the right of way? Some of our right of ways are pretty darn narrow, and some of them are 200 feet wide. Like I said, it was pretty bare bones amendment to your county code just made, not a lot of detail. And I would have thought maybe you would have had some paperwork laying on the counter to say, this is what it was and this is what it's gonna be. And on the public works, taking care of the signs, I mean, for decades, we had a sign person in the county, we still have that, or is now just rolled into the general public works road department?
So I can address some of that. We'd have 3 people in our sign shop that do all the signs, and they're the ones who install those stick and stumps, and they're out with the striping crew. So in order for a no parking zone to be established, it needs to have a public hearing, and there is a list of areas within Public Works. So this amendment literally added some lines that said, no parking signs are erected by Public Works. And it added fines for when the sheriff goes out to ticket those zones. So there are specific signs that are by the MUTCD, which is what we'll be installing. And we have areas that are deemed no parking through a public hearing process. I believe we have about a dozen right now.
So Susan, on that note, are there specific places where this is a problem? We're gonna go put a sign up and then give that person a chance to fix the problem, or we're gonna find them?
I do not know specifically the enforcement, but I do have areas that I receive phone calls where, hey, they're parking in the no parking again. I can't see coming around the corner. I have those locations that have issues. And I know that the sheriff's department probably has more issues that they are aware of than I am because they're specifically asked by the sheriff's department.
So is your gut instinct that this is a on again, off again problem, like family reunions, it's there for a weekend and then it's gone? Or is it something that's a permanent issue?
So there are locations that it's a permanent issue. Like Doug was talking about, we have people who have multiple cars, they park them in the street, they're working on them, they don't run. And there are, I believe if it was a family, I would hope that if it was a family reunion in a location that the sheriff wasn't repeatedly called to, especially if there were noise of a party, they would go knock on the door and say, hey, your vehicles are an issue. Can you get them out of the way? And I believe most of our citizens are not jerks and would address that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Just a note on that, I observe in our standard commerce of business going on, we have logging trucks that will park in an area just for the night when they come in loaded, ready to take off in the morning again, and other trucks in our commerce moving. And I'm of the belief, no harm, no foul on those, that they are not harassed or hassled just in taking on and doing things as long as there's no real harm for safety or security. And if there is, then someone would put a parking notice or something on the trucks, just for general.
Okay. Thank you.
Here, we are 5 minutes.
They're winning our 5 minutes, yeah. I think we're real close. Yeah, okay. We can move on to the next public hearing, and that's building and planning. Adam?
Thank you. Good morning. Adam Trimble, Building and Planning, here to present a public hearing on a request for a amendment to the comprehensive plan map. And this is a map that guides decisions about lot sizes, lot configurations, particularly in areas that don't have any zoning rules associated with them. We call those areas unzoned. And that is what we're dealing with today. So the public hearing is for a map amendment for 53.61 acres in the vicinity of Kildeer Road, which is located near the North Fork of the Toutle River off Kroll Road. It's also northeast of the city of Castle Rock, if you're trying to place it. I do have some maps and the staff report here on the table if anybody's interested in looking at those. But this is a project that goes before the Planning Commission first, and so the Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on this proposal. Originally, it was a 12.9 acre piece that came to the Planning Commission. An applicant paid to have that consideration and have that request before them. During the hearing, the planning commission heard from other property owners in the area, one in particular representing 8 parcels, I believe, approached the commission and said they would like to be part of the change. It makes logical sense to have the boundary include their properties. The planning commission agreed and is recommending including now 10 total parcels. So that's what takes us from the original 12.9 acre request to the 53.61. All of these parcels do border a rural category on the map, but they're currently small holding. And so the change from small holding to rural will kind of blend them in with the neighbors to the east, which have the same category. And so before you, you have some maps, environmental checklist, staff report that contains the original and the revised recommendation on this project. You have a list of the owners and the parcel numbers associated with the properties and a draft ordinance that would actually accomplish the map amendment. And so our task today is to hold a public hearing, hear from anybody interested, anybody with a stake in the property, any neighbors, and then consider the recommendation of the planning commission and a motion on the proposed map amendment. Are there any questions or anything I can go over in detail on that?
Well, I think it's, we pointed out yesterday, this is just a change in how we look at this. If a person has desired to do something with that piece afterward, it's a whole new process, and they have to, that they go through that addresses much more than just changing the size of the property.
That's right.
That's fair.
This is
Yeah.
a policy change at the highest level of our zoning and regulatory scheme. It's just a map change, and then it doesn't mean anything will happen. It doesn't mean anything will change. But if a proposal is made by one of the property owners later on, that would go through its own review. This doesn't accomplish any of that.
Yeah. Any other questions up here? Okay, I'll open public hearing part of it. If public has anything they want to say about this. Let me check online real quick. Okay, I see no questions on it. Okay, I'll close the public comment part of this and entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the change of comprehensive plan amendment for 10 properties totaling 53.61 acres in the vicinity of Kildare Road. We already asked for public comment. There was none, so we'll just go to a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We got a few minutes before 10:15. Upcoming events, next Monday at 11 a.m. we have Janice House Inn. Wednesday, the 20th, we have the Sheriff Equipment Replacement Fund. Also on Wednesday, Youth and Health and Human Services fee schedule and contracts. Of course, the 26th is Board of Health. And into September already, Southwest Washington Workforce on the 9th. We got a couple minutes till the workshop, if anybody has anything. Okay. I would take a recess till 10:15. We'll take a brief recess. Okay, back from recess, we'll head into actual workshop. excise tax impact on new forest stream buffering. So we'll just turn it right over and go.
Oh, thank you. My name is Wade Boyd. Been in Cowlitz County since 1988. I was Senior Vice President of Timber for Longview Fiber Company and have been involved in forestry and forestry activities for 50 years in Washington State. So, but I'm here today as a kind of a private citizen. I monitor what's going on with forest practices rules and their impacts. I was one of the lead negotiators in the Forest and Fish Agreement, which is what we're currently applies to forestry in the state of Washington. So the subject I know a pretty good amount about. There is currently a proposal before the Forest Practices Board to increase the size of stream buffers or on small non-fish bearing streams. And it's a big mistake. And it's also potentially, well, it will cost the county revenue in the long run. So I'd like to talk to you about that today and give you a little background. So I'm here to request your assistance in preventing the adoption of this increased buffers. And if I can get a change of slide, please. I'm here to ask you to contact the Forest Practice Board members and ask that they vote against the new stream buffers. There is no evidence that additional buffers are needed to protect small streams. Next slide, please. I'll just give you a little background. When you applied to do a logging in the state of Washington right now, you go online to this mapping service and you have to map the area that you're going to harvest. Next slide, please. And that application process requires that you create buffers on all the streams that are on this map and the different kinds of buffers. So you have to flag them on the ground and, you know, so next slide, please. This is this is the area I just showed you and the buffers that resulted from the current forest practices rules. I believe they're very adequate for protecting stream and water quality. These buffer systems, no, stop, no, not quite. She jumped ahead of me a little bit, but that's okay. This buffering system was developed through the Forest and Fish Agreement, and it's been in place for 20 years now and working effectively. Next slide, please. Maybe I can just do that. Okay, so these buffers are in place forever. They don't go away. They're permanent reserves. Next slide, please. Support for the proposed new buffers is based on a misapplication of water quality standards and the pollution control processes. Now, this next part's a little complicated and technical, and I'll just throw it in here. I'm not the expert on this part, but I've talked to people that are, so I feel confident about what I'm saying, but don't ask me to explain it. You know. Next slide, please. Evaluation of water quality limited streams. There was a big deal about water quality limited streams in the state of Washington many years ago, and that affects endangered species. And, you know, they want to go through all the streams in the state of Washington and do a process called a TMDL process, which you evaluate the stream and you decide how much pollution it can take of heat. You know, heat is a pollution, sediments a pollution, blah, blah. And it would, you know, just as in the Puget Sound, there are 10,000 streams, it would take, you know, forever. So next slide, please. As part of the forest and fish process, they created an adaptive management program, which is a process by which people can say, look, we think this stream has a problem. We'll go and we'll evaluate the stream and we'll do a scientific process of determining whether you need extra buffers or not. And the process is called the pollution control in place. And that's what's going on right now. Next slide, please. And the problem is that the Washington State Department of Ecology has decided to assume without evidence that all small streams require additional buffers of some 65 to 75 feet on either side of the stream to prevent possible stream temperature changes of 1/2 of a degree Fahrenheit or more. I mean, just, okay. Next slide, please. The DOE's position is an intentional misrepresentation of a water quality standard and a process. That's what I'm told by people, scientists people I respect. Next slide, please. The impact of this DOE position is that even the assumed potential for an increase in stream temperature is adequate for imposing costly new buffers on streams. They are breaking the adaptive management program and putting politics ahead of science. I mean, this is all being driven by politics right now, by the environmental community and out of the Puget Sound area. Next slide, please. Adoption of the proposed new buffer sets a dangerous precedent. Next slide, please. If the DOE currently chooses to ignore the no change in stream temperature rule when reviewing water discharges into the Columbia River, for example. I mean, they're just arbitrarily, doing this, I guess. And other non-point source pollutions, that's part of the problem. Next slide, please. So if the DOE can succeed in this effort to arbitrarily impose an absolute no increase in temperature, which community are they going to go after next? What, they get the forestry community, who's going to be next? Next slide, please.
Can I ask a quick question before we
Yeah.
move on from that? You're saying, it says that the DOE currently chooses to ignore the no change in stream temperature rule.
Right.
Yet down here at the bottom, it says that they're arbitrarily choosing to impose an absolute. So are they ignoring it or are they going to impose it? Or is that?
By ignoring the rule, they can impose. That's the reason they're imposing it. You understand? There is a rule which in other circumstances, like in the Columbia River, you can still see evidence of where they're ignoring that rule. But they choose now arbitrarily to impose it on forestry.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Sorry.
So the rule is there. They're
The
choosing
rule
not
is
to
there,
implement
but the
it.
rule is being misinterpreted. The rule calls, if they think there will be something that exceeds that trigger, they're supposed to conduct a study of it. That's the rule. No, they're saying, no, if it exceeds the rule, we think it will exceed the rule, we're going to make the buffers without any study of it, assuming that there will be a change on every stream. There might be a change on some streams somewhere, but not every stream everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you.
And if they can, other people are telling me, that's not mine, but if they can get away, they've always wanted to get to, forestry has, bitten the bullet kind of thing over this stuff. And we've got the buffers for 20 years and all that. They haven't really gotten to agriculture yet. But if they could do it this way, to forestry, why not just turn around and say to the, dairy farm down the street, hey, wait a minute. Okay, anyway, that's just an aside. Next, please. Removal of land from the working forest land base negatively impacts local families and communities. Next slide, please. This is a graphic. It's a little busy, but there's the Christensen Tree Farm, and this lady put this into public record. It's a picture of her tree farms, over 700 acres, and it was evaluated by this consulting Chilton Forest Management, and they show these little things are the streams with the buffers on them, and the yellow part is the new buffers that they'd want to put on it under the new rule. And with the new rule, they basically doubled the amount of buffers on this lady's property, going up to almost 20% of her ownership. That's a big hit just for that person. Just think of the value of the trees in there. Next slide, please. The proposed new buffers will double the land encumbered by buffers. And I just went through it. Next slide, please. Less land for logging in the county, right? Fewer logging jobs. Next slide, please. Fewer logging jobs means fewer dollars supporting local businesses. Next slide, please. And defending our way of life. I mean, logging and that sort of stuff is a foundational thing in this county, I think. Next slide, please. New buffers will reduce timber harvest potential and reduce excise tax income for the county, and that's what I'm coming to, but I'll just give you the background of it. Next slide, please. I went on Google and looked this up, to get some idea what the financial impact was to the county. But just a little while ago, I was down talking with your county treasurer, and the total excise tax revenue, that's the revenue that you receive from timber harvest, was $1.33 million in 2024. So it's a significant amount of money that comes in. And next slide, please. At the University of Washington, there's a group that does evaluation of forestry projects and topics, and they were asked to study the impact of these rules on forest lands in the state of Washington. And it's just state-of-the-art stuff. It's high resolution aerial photography. It's LiDAR. It's it's the real deal. Next slide, please. So this group at the University of Washington evaluated the impact of the buffers, and if you see in yellow, it's Cowlitz County's part of that whole thing. And when I sent you a kind of a little request for a meeting, it said $10 million, for the county. But this is for the whole state. May I have the next slide, please? So stream buffers are permanent, no harvest areas. You're not going to get excise taxes off of harvest from base buffers ever again. Next slide, please. According to data from Washington's workforce platforms, you have about 658,000 acres, and you already have 161,000 acres restricted in the county. I just kind of wondered what that was. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk about Cowlitz County. This group evaluated the county, and they looked and they found that it was 28,000 acres that would be taken out of productivity in this county. The total harvest impact, or the total value, okay, sorry, I was just, of that 28,000 acres, they did an inventory using this high tech, and there's only 540 million board feet in that area. And at today's market value, that's $245 million worth of timber being locked up. And if it were harvested, the county would get 4% of that value. So the county would get, that's how I get the $10 million. The $12 million is the 5% tax, and the county gets 4% the state gets 1% of it. So that's where the $10 million came from. So the minute they imposed that rule, $245 million worth of timber is locked up. Next slide, please. So this is explaining how I got to that 10 million thing. Next, please. We're not going to harvest it all in 1 year. I mean, that's not going to happen. So let's look at a little different way to look at it. The total acreage is 28,000 acres. And if you put that on a 35-year rotation, you harvest the timber every 35 years, which is kind of what they're doing now. I don't like it, but that's 800 acres a year. And if you get 20 million board feet per acre, you'd be 16 million feet, which the stumpage would be about $7 million a year, and that's $288,000 of revenue per year that the county will not get. Next slide. Some people said, well, what's the present net value? I'm not sure you care about that, but I mean, if somebody were to offer to give you $288,000 a year for the next 35 years, what would you pay them for that? You could pay them for almost $5 million for that and come out even. Next slide, please. Adoption of the proposed expanded buffers will impact excise tax revenues. Now, I don't know how much and when, but it will. That's the point. Next slide, please. As significant in the long term will be the empowering of the DOE, Department of Ecology, to impose a significant constraint on forest landowners and local economies without a credible legal or scientific justification. I mean, that bothers me, by the way. Next slide, please. Oh, who will I go after next? Well, I'm just predicting based on what I've heard in conversations over many years. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So what I'm here today is to ask that you guys contact these members of the board directly. The public comment period ends this afternoon, so you can't just go to a public comment, but you can contact individual board members and express your concern about this process and your opposition to this rule. And so I've given you their email addresses and their names and their titles and all that stuff. So if you decide you would like to communicate with them, I hope you will. This is where you go right there and do that. Next slide, please. You know, I guess that's, again, you can go to the Commissioner of Public Lands and talk to him, and then there's the Department of Ecology. You have an address for those people, and that's in that little packet that I hand out. Next slide, please. There's also a public hearing being conducted by the Department of Ecology, and you can also go there to that public hearing. That one's still open. You can still make comments to that public hearing. Next slide, please. State Grange, I mean, I don't know. I'm contacting the State Grange, but I mean, you might have friends or family or whatever, and it might be an opportunity for you to get other people to express their concern. Next slide, please. And here's some talking points that are presented by the Washington Forest Protection Association, of things that issues and items that you might include or might want to use to form your responses. I believe that's it. Next slide to see what happens. Yep, that's it. Thank you. So if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer questions.
I don't know if we have questions. We've been aware of this, and we do have a letter drafted in opposition to it and I know the final hearing is up in Olympia today.
Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Ironically, your comments need to be in by 5, but the hearing goes from like 6 to.
There you go. Well, and I've
Yeah.
heard that the
4 to 6.
DNR has messed up the process, and they might be an extension too, but I'm not sure of that.
Yeah. And we've been working with the local conservation district, John Keeley, you might be familiar with him. This is everything you've said here is exactly what we've been seeing too. It's an economic impact to our county and to our way of life, really. I think
Yeah. Yep.
John mentioned last night, there's like 5 mills in our county,
Mm.
I think. And if you don't think it's not going to impact these mills and their employees,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bad deal. I think we all three totally on board with that.
Yeah. I was expecting some agreement. I just wanted to make sure that I made it easier or facilitated your background information and give you some ways to comment and
Yeah.
encourage to comment. So I appreciate you.
Totally appreciated, yeah.
Yeah. No.
Anything we can do, I know we're on board to try and stop that
Yeah,
nonsense.
well, the Grange, if you have contacts through the Grange, there's a lot of people. What we need right now, what I'm told we need is to turn out, because the environmental community is turning out in great numbers to, try to affect the board by their physical presence and stuff like that. So it's just what Forest and Fish was meant to avoid. It's just a political battle. And it shouldn't be that. It should be a scientific process through adaptive management to decide if streams need more buffers. And if they do, okay, but you can't just say, well, I want more buffers.
They just ignored the adaptive management plan they put in place.
That's the other process. They're killing the the adaptive management was a core pillar of Forest and Fish, and they're gonna kill it.
Yeah. And it's really,
Opinion.
it's really being pushed by DOE. And Ron, yeah, a person by the name of Dave Bowen sits on that committee for Department of Ecology. You had a question earlier on that, so, yeah. Yeah. Mr. Kaiser, did you have a comment? You want to come up and grab a mic?
I'll get them.
Oh, thank you, sir.
For the record, I too will be going to Olympia as Mr. Boyd will be this afternoon. This thing's been going on forever. You can find science on both sides of this thing, and that's not what's going to carry the day, but I do encourage you guys to write the letter. And as he mentioned, John, or you mentioned him, I know you've been prepped a lot on this, and you can, you know, time is of the essence. When Mr. Boyd spoke about the Grange doesn't work that way. They got to be grassroots, just like the Farm Bureau. You got to make a resolution, and it takes a year to get anything done. This thing is on a super compressed time zone. Like I told one of the people in the audience here, the last hearing today is in Olympia. Last week they were in Port Angeles, the week before they were in Cedar Woolley, and the week before that were in Longview. I didn't know they were in Longview till the next day.
Yeah.
And like I previously mentioned to somebody, you know, you take the Forest Practices Board, that's in Department of Natural Resources, not in Ecology, but they're not very far apart up there. It's pretty close to the
Yes.
Crystal Cathedral, to the DNR building. Nobody knows who the Forest Practices Board is, and they probably could care less. And that's what the problem is, the nameless, faceless, blameless part of society and bureaucracy that makes things happen. You know, there ain't nothing I hate worse in this world than a whack. And that's exactly where it's coming out of. And he talks about the Forest and Fish thing, and he puts agriculture down there, he being Mr. Boyd. They tried to roll a farm and fish thing at the same time, and the farmers said no, and it didn't happen. That's the only reason why, because they'd rather fight than switch or join them or whatever. And that's why there is no farm and fish rule like there's a forest and fish rule. And the forest and fish rule hasn't helped the forest much. It's helped the environmental community. And on that note, the DNR, I believe, back in the late 80s or maybe the 90s, they come up with a program through the legislature to compensate landowners for your leaf strips, except they forgot to fund it. I don't think there's a landowner anywhere out there that would mind leaving a buffer strip if they got paid for it. But I think what everybody minds is environmentalism on the cheap, where which I do have some timberland, not much, but a little, I have to pay for the common good. Well, how about the common good paying for what they want to take? And it's exactly what it is, the taking. Now, none of this rambling I've done here is going to help you guys make your letter and get it on the internet before 4:59 this afternoon. But I mean, this is a problem that's being tried to solve here in less than 30 days. It's been the other side, if you want to refer to that, has been plotting it for 30 years. And like I know there have been many groups come to you, or at least many people come to you and ask you to be in opposition to this taking. And I sincerely hope that you do craft some kind of a letter. I'm not going to write a letter because I'm not a writer. I went to high school in the open concept, and you missed it, Steve. You missed a lot. But I am going to go and try and make some oral presentation this afternoon in my 2 minutes or whatever they choose to give you, because it's about those 13 people, and we'll get back to them right now. 5 people of the 13 people on that board voted to bring this issue up. That was a majority today that was considered. I know there's 1 vacancy on the board right now, so they got 12, which means they need to have 7 votes. They've already got 5 people who are in favor of this. They just need to find 2 among their absent friends.
Yeah.
It's a pretty thin margin we're looking at right now. So
The one vacancy is a county representative. And we've had 3 people presented to the governor, and he's dragging his feet and making a choice on that.
maybe that's a good thing. You never know who you're going to get.
Well, I think who you know, the State Association of Counties has vetted 3 people to fill that. And I know I sit on the Timber Caucus for the Association of Counties, and I know they're opposed to this. They've been opposed to this
Right.
from day one. But we don't have a person on there to vote.
Right. You know, and financially, this is bad for all taxing entities, whether it's the school, the fire department, or the county. And no matter what the degree is, a dollar is a dollar and a penny is a penny. It all adds up. And just philosophically, this is wrong. It is an absolute taking by
Yeah,
just a little bit more than one handful of people get to take away from thousands, and it affects millions.
yeah.
And it is so wrong, and it is such bad public policy, it's not even funny. And I've probably said more than enough, and thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's taking of property from people. There's just no two ways around it.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of a personal example. Some of you know of our property up in Castle Rock. We've got 60 acres in our family. We bought the property in 1974. I intentionally looked for land with water sources on it. We have a full-time stream that cuts through about a third of it. And then there are a whole series of tributaries that dry up during the summer that feed that main stream. We have a forestry plan that we've been working for 50 years, planting trees, doing all that kind of stuff. We've got a couple of houses on the property, and now we're developing an event center for the community. When I look at these new proposals, everything that we have already done would be totally illegal if this thing goes through. The value of our land is, I was going to meet with my son at 11 o'clock to go out and start assessing the value of this, but this basically makes our property almost worthless. All the trees we've planted, we cannot harvest under this. So this is Dr. Fauci all over again, just in a different deal.
Yeah.
We need to slap it down and put these people back where they belong.
Agree.
As you represent, a number of us have already written letters. My first request of the Forest Practices Board would be, would you give us a listing of all of the correspondence that you've received? So number one, to make sure that we are being heard, things get lost along the way in, and et cetera, et cetera. Secondly, the economic value that was listed here is timber only. It does not include all of the sawmill, all of the pulp and paper businesses, all of the secondary businesses associated with that. It does not include the depreciation in value of the properties that you are receiving, we are receiving taxes for. And it certainly does not represent us, the citizens. Thirdly, the paper from up north, the county gave a little more information on this 13-member board. It said, yes, 5 of them voted for this. All 5 were members of committees of the state under the finger of our political arena. So that's very important, et cetera, and getting a vote that represents the people and the businesses. So it is been slipped in, and the time has been slipped in. It is clearly not a process representing the people of Western Washington and the values. So it is very important. Another very important part, talking about fish. You know, we realize right now that we've been studying through our agency's fish for the last 50, 60 years since the dams were put in. I'm sorry to say we know no more about our fish and survival in the Columbia River now than we did 50 years ago with all that's been done. So these studies, again, we can't see any substance to them providing data to anything that is substantive and supportive.
Okay. I would tell you, we do have a letter drafted and we'll be up there. We've been supportive of the other groups. I know Kayakum has filed, a lot of the conservation districts, State Association has filed a letter. Different boards. There's a lot of opposition to this, and we're hoping we can nip it in the bud. Anything else for today? We appreciate you coming today and contacting us and providing with that. Anything else? Yeah.
Since Ron brought up about fishing the Columbia River, each and every one of us here.
Yeah.
Come up, Mike, to.
I always get a message, please ask speakers to come to the mic.
Since he mentioned the fish in the Columbia, and we stay on the Columbia River here for a minute, about 35% of our light bill is for fish, which this thing here is allegedly about fish. I mean, when is it gonna be a definitive answer somewhere? And lo and behold, you can still buy a fish at Safeway.
Yeah.
We won't get a definitive answer because then that kills the environmental movement.
That stops there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Those fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This is all about freedom.
Well, that's the way I see it. It's taking people's property. And it only affects private landowners. It doesn't affect the feds. It doesn't affect DNR. It affects these people affects you. It affects people that own these stretches of property. Well,
Producers are moving red sticks.
yeah. Okay. Thanks for your participation. We will adjourn. Thank you.